Pretty excited, I must admit. Current SA super middleweight champion Rowan Campbell. Rowan, welcome to the studio.
Thank you, thank you.
So lucky to finally get you here. I always seem to bump into you at boxing events and have to chat. Like last Sunday, we were watching Elvis Moyo up against Rowan Fisser. But now I finally get you to myself in studio, so we get an opportunity to talk, and all ahead of a crucial big fight for you coming up this Sunday. How's the camp been, and how are you feeling?
I'm feeling very good. The camp's been exceptional. Been training hard this whole year, since this year started basically. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to get the show on the road.
So ahead of the fight, obviously we need to unpack that you are the current SA super middleweight champ. That was a belt you won last year, August. So obviously took a bit of time off after that, got back into full camp mode probably over the festive season while everyone else was tucking into turkeys and khut. You were tucking into the gym. You say camp's gone well, and everything on song for Sunday night when you hopefully will be walking away with the IBO Africa super middleweight title.
When I walk home with the IBO super middleweight IBO Africa, eh? And yeah, no, I don't think South Africans eat turkeys either, but I was training hard in December, hiking and everything.
So tell me, the big thing, fighters, and I think it's definitely part of the game, fighters are always like, it is mine. Before we even go into that thing, how important is that mindset going into a fight, to absolutely believe that doesn't matter what he brings, doesn't matter what my opponent brings on the day, I have got more in my toolbox?
To be honest with you, Mark, it's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. You have to believe it before you achieve it. It's a very famous saying, believe it, then achieve it. I can't tell you, you have to, whatever you tell yourself in your mind, you will make come true. So you have to, I will, not I think is a negative word, I will.
So the mindset of I'm going to do my best when I get into that ring, that's not the kind of mindset a fighter needs when he's going into, doesn't matter if it's for a title, but for any fight.
That one's an exception. I'll do my best, you got to do your best. You got to put it all out there. So that one's the exception.
But I suppose you can only do as well as your camp has prepared you for.
I would partially agree. Yeah, on fight nights, those emotions, those feelings running through your system, the support, anything can happen.
Talking about fight night, seen many instances in a fight where you can clearly see that fighter is not switched on. How critical is the time that you spend with your trainer, your coach, in the build-up, once you wrap the hands, once you sort of getting into that mental space where you're switched on? How crucial is that time? Because like I said, often you get into a situation, you go, well, was he even prepared? He looked shocking in the ring. He looked shocking in the fight.
That's 100% up to the trainer, not necessarily the fighter. Trainers have a huge role in boxing. A lot of people think boxing's a one-man sport because there's just one man in the ring. But that trainer, especially my trainer, Peter Smith, they have so much importance. It's crazy. He builds us up. Prior to the ring, we sweat more, or we're sweating just as much as we will in the ring. Mike Tyson used to come out dripping of sweat. He was that ready. You have to. It's organization, getting in there on time, getting your hands wrapped in time so that you have enough time to. That's also where it comes down to the fighter. You have to be there on time to get your hands wrapped on time and get warmed up and go through all the preparations in time and go through the preparations itself to be ready.
Another big component to combat sports is this probably mistaken understanding of weight cutting. Now, obviously, you're fighting in a specific space. You're talking super middleweight. Weight cutting problematic for you throughout your career? I mean, the current record looking at 8-0, 6 KOs. Has weight cutting ever been a problem for you?
No, I do cut a little bit of weight. It's a discipline factor. So if I switched off on the discipline side, it would be difficult. But as long as you stay disciplined, not eat sweets basically, I'm good. You have to be disciplined for weight, and that's where guys start to get lazy, especially in the long run. Yeah.
But I suppose the discipline issue also kicks in depending on what your long-term goal is as a fighter, because if your long-term goal is as far as the next fight, discipline only is as far as the next fight. and not anything longer. So therefore, the sweet cravings and all those other things that shouldn't be happening start kicking in, right?
100%. That's a big element. But I also say you can't be too strict on yourself. So like after this fight, I'll go have like a cheat meal or two, just so that you don't be too strict and go be too fanatic about being disciplined. You know, you got to have that
balance.
That balance. Have a good balance as well, which helps. Some people they're so strict, then they one day just snap and they can't get out of the snapping phase because sugar's highly addictive and stuff. You know? So have a balance. After a fight, treat yourself to one or two things, your favorite things, whatever they are.
Yeah.
Have a good balance. And yeah, Oaks have to stay disciplined because often that is a big case. It's just, I'm so ready for this fight. After this fight, I achieved what I wanted to achieve. Now what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your background. How did you get into boxing?
I was actually overweight is the main reason why.
Too many sweets?
Yeah. And my mom took me to McDonald's a lot, so I've actually had a lot of fat chats with her.
Okay.
She blames me, I blame her. She says I just liked it.
Okay.
But I was an overweight kid, and I actually went to MMA first. And then my middle brother was at Peter Smith boxing. He was 15, I was 13 at the time, and he came over to my MMA gym, and he just impressed the hell out of everybody. And he was 15 years old, and they asked him, had you sparred before? And he said no. He was adamant, and they kept on swapping his sparring partners because he was too good. Then the one guy who was in charge, he actually got a bit annoyed with my brother. He thought my brother lied to him and said, he said, hey, you said you haven't sparred. My brother was like, I haven't. And the guy thought that he was messing around, and he took on my brother. My brother did really well. Since then, we thought we were really cool doing all this CrossFit stuff. But yeah, since then I was like, nah, I have to go into boxing.
Well, that's a stunning story in terms of how sport can actually change a life. And I think not enough is made of how sport actually does help youngsters. In your instance, 13 years old, a little bit of a probably chunky kid, and now boxing. Look where you are now, current SA super middleweight champion. So obviously from that initial training, obviously into the Smith's gym, you obviously then decided to take it on a little bit more seriously. Amateur career, 3 fights in your amateur career.
Yes, I had 3 fights in my amateur career. Struggled for opponents when I went through to try and compete in amateurs. All 3 of my fights were against the same guy, Lebo. We actually watched him fight last Sunday. He fought Chris Thompson.
Yeah.
He's who I had all 3 of my amateur fights against. I was maybe also a bit too heavy back then. You know, I should have come in a bit lighter, and I see
Obviously, is that because you were sponsored by McDonald's?
No, but apparently I liked it. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, if you lighter in amateurs, I think it would have definitely got me more fights. Unfortunately, I went a couple of times, and it was either level or nothing. So then after a while, level beat me the first 2 amateurs, purely on a fitness basis, I would say. Too much McDonald's. And then the 3rd time I beat him, and I don't know, I could have a chat with him, but I felt like he didn't want to fight after that, because we could have actually fought again. We could have just kept on fighting one another. But if I look back on it, it wasn't very competitive when I was there. There was maybe 2 other guys in Joburg, so I didn't have many amateur fights.
And then obviously you decided the best way to go and get some proper fights, turn pro.
Yes, I was actually with Peter while doing amateurs. He was encouraging me to get as many amateurs as possible, but Peter never did amateurs. He never had an amateur license, only a pro license. And I think once you're a professional, once you have your pro license, you can't do amateurs. So I went through another guy, jab boxing, Shane Duneveld. I think I might have messed up his surname there. And yeah, so I was switching in between 2, going to Pete twice a week, Shane a few other days a week.
So now you've turned pro, as I mentioned earlier, a record of 8-0, 6 KOs. And looking at that record, your first couple of fights in terms of those KOs or TKOs, you started off with first round wins. So definitely a very auspicious start to your professional career. And then it's gradually started moving back. 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, and then up to an 8th round, and then we dropped down a bit. And now your last fight, points decision, win for the vacant SA super middleweight title. A strap which I think you still don't have.
Unfortunately, I don't actually. South Africa, BSA, they just made a new South African belt. It looks amazing. Even that old belt, I would have really loved to have got my hands on.
Yeah.
But they have promised me a new one, so I'm looking forward to that.
And you only get that once you defended it.
I think I was actually meant to get it, but because of I don't know this too well, but because of them remaking it, it was complicated. But I was originally meant to defend my title, and they did promise me the South African belt once I defended it. So I think that could be a thing.
Okay, so we look forward to seeing that belt.
Yes.
If it's over the shoulder, around the waist,
Oh,
doesn't
can't
matter.
wait.
Absolutely.
It looks great.
Does it feel at all like you're a champ without the belt?
Yes, but I think that belt does have a little bit of emphasis.
You know, you can't put it up on a wall anyway. You can't point to anyone and
Yeah.
say, that's mine.
Yeah, I definitely want that belt.
Absolutely. I suppose if you worked hard enough for it, you rightfully deserve it. Looking forward to the weekend. Rowan, it's the IBO Africa Super Middleweight title over 10 rounds. But the question I have to ask is, you're going for the second belt, but haven't yet had an opportunity to defend the SA title. Is this about belt collection, or is this part and parcel of a bigger strategy for Rowan Campbell in his career going forward?
That all has to do with Peter Smith and Rodney Berman, the promoter of Golden Gloves. But as far as I know, they wanted me to defend this belt. I think they went through like 3 opponents to try and get me to defend this belt.
So now you're fighting for the IBO Africa Super Middleweight title. It's up against Congolese Alex Kabangu. I watched Alex Kabangu when he took on Frank Rodriguez late last year. His record currently 4-0-1 with that single draw, 2 KOs. You've obviously done your homework on Alex. You know what to expect in those first couple of minutes of the first round. What are you expecting he's going to bring at you, bearing in mind you have this target on your back? You are the SA champion.
He's coming out hard. He's coming out to knock me out. But I'm actually looking forward to that. I think I do well under pressure. So I'm hoping he puts a lot of pressure on me. But he's definitely coming out swinging to knock me out.
Looking at your previous fights, do you think Kabanga could be one of your hardest opponents you faced to date?
As my fights have gone, like you said earlier, the more the fights go on, the more you go, the more people want to see a more competitive opponent. So definitely, highly possible. You never underestimate anyone in this game.
One punch could finish it.
100%. So I could be fighting someone with 40 losses, for example. I will not underestimate them.
But knowing Peter Smith, he's not going to take you half cooked into any fight.
Hey, Peter's a tough nut. He will challenge you if he wants to challenge you. But where I would say I would change that question up a bit, I believe in what Peter's taught me, and he also emphasizes that to us. We must believe what he's taught us. I believe 100% we're getting taught what not many people, that no one is getting taught in this country, that's for sure.
Well, you can definitely look, if we look at the Smiths, let's call it the aura that's now sort of permeating around the Smiths, both Sean as well as Peter. You're looking at a stable of champions being groomed through Smith's gym, obviously, and Peter Smith's gym. You've got Kevin Larena, you've got Tools, you've got Nkunu. So you've got a heck of a lot of, and I'm probably missing out 3 or 4 there as well, but you've got a huge number of champs, a lot of experience to draw from. How much experience have you drawn from the likes of Kevin and Tools?
A lot. I've done quite a lot of sparring with both of them, surprisingly. And just being in the ring with them, you learn a lot from them, One thing which really surprising about both of them is just the intelligence while you're fighting them, and the intelligence was a huge thing, which I don't think a lot of people use. A lot of people just want to use brawns and muscle. They're very smart fighters. And Sibs is another, Sibisisu, he just won the Pan-African or WBA, forget what it's called, Pan-African title. So yeah, the Smiths are doing really well. They're really good coaches. They come from a family of boxing. When they were young, while we were freaking colouring in and stuff, they were just talking about boxing. You know, they come from Mr. Smith, Quincy Smith. He knows boxing. He was fighting since the kids were born, I think.
Looking forward to your career, long-term aspirations for Rowan Campbell. If everything goes according to plan, you have that second strap. What's next? What's the plan?
I've been told, not sure if I should mention this, but I've been told it's probably going to be in May, fighting again after this. It's probably an international bout. But my plan is just to stay focused, stay training and stuff, and not to worry too much about that. That's where Peter comes in, you know. He has to worry about all that stuff. My job is just to train and stay focused, stay disciplined, keep my head in the game.
Something that sort of looking at your record and looking at a lot of what's been taking place in the bigger world of boxing, and here I'm referring specifically to Anthony Joshua. Lots been made around Anthony Joshua not being a true world champion from the perspective that he's never really fought outside of the States, outside of the UK. He's now taking on this fight in the States come April. Looking at your career, all of your fights have been local. Is it a big thing for you to one day have that first fight outside of the country against an international opponent?
Oh, I'd love to. I think it's all South African boxers' dream to either fight in Britain or America. I don't know. It's just the two. Well, look at it. America's always been like where boxing's dominated, and Eddie Hearn. Boxing was always big in the UK, but specifically Eddie Hearn's put it back up. You know, you have to give him a lot of credit. The likes of a lot of people, not just Anthony Joshua. But it seems to be the two dominant boxing places to be. So it's definitely a goal. I wouldn't even put one above the other. I would maybe even say the British fans could be a lot harder to fight in front of. I've just watched videos, they look a lot rowdier. I think the Americans will chirp a lot more. But it's a balance. Which one, you know, it's both going to be different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So looking forward at potential options, obviously, I mean, we look at Kevin and his aspirations to fight some of the big guys, Alexander Usyk. Yourself, any sort of middleweights that you're looking at to be able to say, listen, that's someone that's on my radar that maybe not now, maybe not this year or the next, but that's someone that I definitely want to cross paths with in the square circle?
Yeah, there's a few. My ultimate dream is, it's a big one. I'm going for the biggest dream, is to fight Canelo Alvarez. That's the biggest one. I started big. But there's a few. It'll take a good couple of years, I'm sure, before even I get a name big enough to be a competitor against Canelo. But there's a few on the way there. There's a lot, especially in my weight group, super middleweight. It's quite a busy, active weight category in boxing. So there's a good few. But I definitely want to go over to the States or UK. That's a dream goal. Doesn't matter who.
Looking at what South Africans are doing overseas, obviously this last weekend, the big win by DJ Krill. Hugely, I think, if memory serves, that takes us to now 14 or 15 world champions.
Jeez, I wouldn't know that, but yeah, it's a few. It's a good few. Well done to him. Congrats to him. Yeah, I watched a bit. Yeah,
no, it's a stunning performance, and obviously, once again, like you said, putting South African boxing again on the map.
Yes.
Where it has fallen off, I would say, over the last sort of 10 years.
South African boxing's been on the rise for a good while now, especially locally. You can even see the South Africans are getting behind South African boxing again. I think at one stage there was a little bit of a dip just in the sport, not in fans or anything. I think South African boxing just needed some few big names. Now there's a lot coming up here, there, some very good fighters, and yeah, well done to DJ Krill. Someone told me the other day that his cornerman actually spoke to him in the 12th round and said, hey, you need this knockout to win this fight, and he went out and did that. That's ballsy is the word, you know. That's something you got to take your hat off to.
Well, looking at that fight card, which they announced, is that going into that 12th round he was down on two judges' scorecards, and had that fight obviously finished then, gone to the judges, he would have lost. And obviously dropping him twice before it ultimately being ruled a TKO. absolutely big up to DJ Krill. Can't wait for him to get back into South Africa. But that's part of the dream for you. Next step is this weekend, this Sunday.
Yes.
Everything takes place out at Empress.
100%.
Do you know there's still tickets available?
I think there's a few available. You can get at the door. I think like 200 rand. Empress.
Well, Rowan, wish you all the best. Good luck for Sunday. And hopefully we'll chat to you on Tuesday when you know that you are the new IBO African Super Middleweight Champion.
Thanks, Mark, and I'll bring the belt this time.
Can't wait for that one.